Welcome everybody to our most recent WOT online session on equipment. Thanks for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri people. I'd like to pay my respects to these people, their culture and their traditions. I pay particular respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who may be joining us today. So, thanks for joining in. We've got, as I was saying to some of the people as they were coming in earlier, we've got Q&A today. You can type your questions in and upvote questions and comment on questions if you have knowledge to share. There's also the chat, but try and stick to the Q&A for sharing knowledge. If you are unable to type today, there should be an option for you to raise a virtual hand. So there's a little hand symbol. If you click on that, I will see a hand come up next to you, and we can then turn on your sound so that you can speak your question to us. So please let us know via that if you'd like to make a comment, and we'll take it from there. So I'll stop talking now and hand over to the MC, Nazim Erdem, who will host the session and introduce you to the panel.
Thanks, Sal. Yeah, welcome everybody. Just wanted to quickly introduce ourselves and the panel members especially. We're going to go through like a PowerPoint presentation with some of the modifications that we use for sport, recreation and leisure. I'm a C6 quadriplegic. Had an injury well over 25 years ago, and that was through a diving accident. So I'll pass it on to Dale. Dale, if you just want to introduce yourself and a bit of a background to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, g'day everyone. Name is Dale. Had my accident in '97, C8 incomplete quad, and run my own company. So that's all I spend most of my time doing.
Creative person. We'll move on to Campbell. Campbell, if you just want to quickly introduce yourself as well.
Yep, I'm Campbell Message. I've been in chair forever, pretty much since I was 2, and yeah, I got to do lots of fun leisure stuff through the Talbot. So it was almost like a way to try and pick the most fun things to then do in your own time. So yeah, I've been lucky, and I'll share some of that.
Thanks, Campbell. Talking about the Royal Talbot, we've got Sal, who we've already met, and Ruth, who is she's a vocational consultant and leisure specialist. Ruth, do you just want to quickly introduce yourself and talk about what you do?
Yeah, so I work for the Spinal Community Integration Service here at the Talbot. So we support people who are recently discharged from the Royal Talbot from the spinal unit. And like you said, I mainly focus on work and leisure as well. Yeah, I love that. I'm an OT by background with that focus on return to work and return to leisure. So all the fun stuff in life.
Excellent. Thanks, Ruth. And we'll move on to Rhys. Rhys?
Yeah, my name's Rhys. I'm a T10 complete par. I had my accident in 2016, and I'd have to say since my accident, I've probably done everything I did before my accident, if not more, to be honest. Yeah, keep pretty busy, pretty active, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
No, thank you, Rhys. Dave.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name's Dave. I've been the chair for about 32 years after a motorbike accident. Broke my neck, so I'm a C5-6 complete. And I suppose, you know, for me, I see a disability as something that can be overcome, so you can get out and do lots of different things. So, you know, I like to fly planes, kayak, hand cycle, and go out and just do a bit of adventuring, have a bit of fun.
Thanks, Dave. That's a great way to put it, you know, regarding disability and activity. And we just have been joined by Joy. Joy, we just quickly introduced ourselves. You want to give us a bit of a background on yourself?
Sure. So I am a T6. I've been in the chair for about 9.5 years, and have, I suppose, a bit like Dave, I have a bit of a crack at anything and everything. Yeah, got 3 kids, fairly active. You just, yeah, get on with it.
Excellent. Thanks, Joy. We may be have a couple of other people join us, but as they do, we'll quickly introduce them. I think Lynn's there. I can see Lynn, but she may not be. I think she's having some IT issues. But so what we're going to do, all of us guys have sent through some photos that Sal has put into a PowerPoint presentation, and I think everyone will be impressed on the different equipment that we've been able to put together. And as he's mentioned too, you can ask some questions along the way by using the Q&A function or the chat function. And yeah, we're going to go through some of the slides fairly quickly because we've got quite a few of them. And similar products, you know, if you're learning about adaptable equipment, you'll see that a lot of this stuff looks similar, but they are quite different. And if you're not sure about what the differences are, we can tell you more about them as we go. But yeah, a lot of the equipment is very similar, so we're going to skip through a lot of it pretty quickly. But if anyone wants us to go back, we can do that. Just been joined by Nicole. Nicole, thanks for joining us. We just quickly introduced ourselves, who we are and what we do. And before we start the PowerPoint presentation, might get you to just do a quick introduction.
Thanks, Naz. I'm Nicole and I'm part of the SCIS team, and I'm a leisure specialist on the team, so helping people to reconnect with past leisure experiences that they enjoyed or look at new things that they might like to get involved in.
Excellent. Thanks, Nicole. So I think we're done with the introductions. Sal's the PowerPoint man, so
I'll start the slideshow. I just want to say that today's session is really just going to be a sampler. There's lots and lots of photos to go through. We're probably going to go into extra time, but we are recording the session, so feel free if you have to drop out to come back and follow up with the recording. We'll post the video on YouTube, on AQA Spire's YouTube channel. There'll be a lot of information. I think the main thing to remember as I've been putting together the slideshow is if you have a will, there will be a way. And without any further ado, we'll begin the slideshow.
That's a great point, Sal, and we'll talk about that later on as well. I mean, if there's will, there's a way, and we'll see that, and we'll get into that a little bit more as well.
Right, so kicking off with power assist devices.
So this one here, I mean, you're going to see we've got a lot of high-tech and low-tech equipment that people use. This one's fantastic and doesn't look like much. I'll get Rhys to talk about exactly what that is. That's him on the right after a bit of fishing that he's gone through. But this actual Zoom all-terrain vehicle or wheelchair or whatever you want to call it actually can go anywhere, and it's very stable. So, Rhys, do you want to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yep, so that's my Zoom. It's me on the 90-mile beach there and caught a bit of, I don't know, probably 4-foot gummy. I go down to the beach quite often. It works perfectly on the beach. Amazing how well it works, to be honest. Play in the snow with it a lot. We go in the bush a lot, do a lot of shooting with it. Yeah, pretty much whenever my kids are going for a push bike ride, I'm burning along with them. They beat me at the start, but by the end, I'm cheating because I'm electric, they keep telling me. But yeah, all around, if you want to do it, that thing will take you there. You've got to have a little bit of caution and be sensible, obviously, as you do with any bit of equipment. But yeah, it's great. And you pair it up with the fishing drone there, and off you go. You know, you can fly your baits out and just get back to having fun. It was really good up at Hotham and at Falls Creek in the sense that you could ride it all the way to the ski lift, and then you would meet the DWA people there and throw you into sit ski, and away you go again. It just made life perfect for very, I suppose, tricky situations for someone in a wheelchair.
Thanks, Rhys. And as you can see, I mean, it's a very stable piece of equipment, and you can just about go anywhere. Have you ever got bombed or got into any dangerous situations that you want to talk about?
I had got stuck down the beach one day with my daughter. Well, the front right tyre decided to stop working the motor because they're individual motors. And with the other three and her assistance, I was able to push me off the beach, but that's probably the worst one I've had. I find if you're trucking right down a hill, it's very, very stable. But if you go left down a hill, because that wheel's behind, it's a little bit more unstable. So but I haven't had any offs yet, touch wood. But otherwise I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I just saw a question come through. Where would someone, if they wanted to get one of these, what would be the first step? Where would you go?
So I did a lot of research on this while I was in the Talbot still, and I was able to get hold of the people at GMS Rehabilitation or Ability, whatever they are, and they're in Limburg, and organised to have a trial brought out to the Talbot. Campbell was very much involved in helping assist with that. And yeah, we burned around the grounds of the Talbot and had an awesome time. And when I come home, there's actually a photo of me fishing on the beach, salmon fishing. And I was probably about 3 weeks out of hospital. And we had a trial at home for a month. And I took it everywhere and anywhere I could possibly think of, through rainforests, beaches, hills, mountains, snow, anywhere I could find. Yeah,
great, thanks, Rhys. And what we'll probably do is we'll have a list of suppliers for the equipment. We'll have a list of this equipment and share that later on. Anyway, so we'll move on to the next slide. So this is another great piece of equipment. I've noticed people using this more and more often, and it's just a way of converting your day chair into an electric wheelchair to go pretty much, not everywhere, but long distances and a lot of places where terrain's difficult. So as you can see, that just attaches to any day chair with some brackets. Some of these, there's different versions, so you don't need brackets. Has anyone on the panel got one of these?
I haven't got the Baytech one. I got a Team Hybrid one probably not long after I got out of hospital, but it is difficult to attach. So I got it mounted to a wheelchair permanently. So it's one that I sort of get in and out of, but I find that it's quite tippy and it doesn't grip going up a hill.
Okay.
So I've ended up, like where I live, I'm back onto a bike track, but it's quite steep sort of access to it, and I've tipped myself out of it before because I've gone, so that's it there. So what I've done is I'm going up, try to get the run up to go up the hill, but I get sort of 3/4 up and then lose traction, and then I slid back down and ended up sort of tipping myself out.
Okay.
Not ideal.
So with getting any equipment like this, it's a good idea not just to go and buy one. It's good to get like a referral through an OT and trial it just for safety purposes.
I think, just one of the good things about these, which is worth talking about before we go to the other ones, is these are great because you can use your existing seating. So your chair's set up and your cushions are all there, and you don't have to get out of your chair. So if you can get one, you can get that attached as well. They're actually really useful. Some of the negatives to do with sliding when you go up hills, as Joy was saying, is something to keep in mind. But they're a really useful device, I think.
Yeah, and like mine was probably 8 years ago, Campbell, wasn't it, when I got it? So they've certainly evolved a lot since then.
Yeah.
They didn't have that option to easily attach onto the front of your chair at that stage.
I remember thinking about yours, Joy. Unfortunately, the next model out was so much better.
Yeah. I think my kids get in it more, or they used to get in it more than what I do. But, that's just the luck of the draw, isn't it? The great thing about technology is as it evolves over time, it just improves.
And what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for everyone as well. Like those trials are so good.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's a few different things to consider if you're looking at a device like this. So one is if you're looking at getting a new chair, if you think that a device like this is something that would really meet your needs, then you can get the bracket fitted onto your chair at the time it's being made, which just decreases the weight slightly from if you get an add-on at a later point of time. The Stricker or the Firefly, where it connects on the frame of your chair, those are if like your frame setup isn't, you can't put a bracket on perhaps for some reason, or the foot plate's not right, or you just need to look at how you're going to use it and your physical ability for putting the device on and off as well. So there's just a few different considerations. I think where Joy mentioned about the not getting good traction, there's a range of different devices which have different torque, different powers. So if you're using it where there's a lot more hills and you're going to need a lot more power, then it'd be worth trying out some different devices that are going to suit the environment where you're going to be using that device. And also weighting is a big issue to consider. If you're going to be going where there's a lot of hills, the weighting on some of them are a little bit different. So it's just kind of working out what is going to suit your purposes and how you're going to use the device, where you're going to go. Are you just going to be going around the block? Are you going to be going on a paddock, flat terrain, hilly terrain, that sort of thing? And quad control, some of them have different controls that are better suited for quads as well.
When I purchased mine, I didn't live where I do now, so it was different. I bought it with different ideas and then moved and had some circumstances change. So, but yeah, it's still been good.
We've got a question that from Anthony. Can he hire the Zoom? The Zoom all-terrain. Does anyone know? Rhys, do you know if it can be hired?
Yeah, they can be hired through GMS.
Right, thank you. We might move on to these other devices.
Yeah, so these are different types of add-ons. I mean, the most popular one, or the one that I hear quite often, is the Smart Drive, the one on the right, but there's different versions of that. They probably work in similar ways. So we'll have a look at some other types of these. Was there another couple on the net? Yeah, so here's some other ones as well. These are becoming so much popular at the moment. It just gives you like a power boost or turbocharges your chair for a short period, or you can have it on full time as well. Does anyone use one of these, the Smart Drives or similar?
Yeah, I've got a Smart Drive. I find that I've had the eMotion wheels as well as the Smart Drive, and I find that the eMotions are very heavy. They can be a bit lethal too. They can take off on you, so if you haven't got the mono bars at the back, it'll flip around the back. But the eMotions are good. You can certainly go places with them. I find that the Smart Drive's a lot more convenient because you can just attach it to your chair when you go outside and take it off quite easily when you're inside, so it's a bit more versatile. The only thing that I found with the Smart Drive I didn't like about it so much is that the watch that you have to activate the motor to get it moving, I find that it was a bit sensitive. Sometimes you tap your wrist and it wouldn't start up, then you get it going, and then you'd move your arms a bit to help steer the wheels, and then it would shut it down again. So I found for myself that was a little bit could be a bit frustrating at times, but apart from that, it's a great little unit, especially if you travel on planes, that sort of thing. It goes into a bag, and it's much easier to take around with you when you're traveling, you know, interstate or even overseas. So, but it's good. Yeah, it'll push you up hills, and it's great.
Thanks, Dave. I mean, they are really good. They're not cheap either, and we'll talk about that towards the end of these next few slides.
Sorry, Cam, can I just chop in again?
Yeah.
Colin Johansson, you're giving us some nice comments, but you're directing them only to panelists. If you want, next to the to button, if you click on it, you can choose all panelists and attendees, and then the other people in the Zoom session will be able to see your comments as well. I think Colin was repeating what Nicole had said, that there are models. So some of the add-ons like this, there are models with quad that are great for quad suitable handbrakes and throttles. He has a manual Firefly, so that you can get options where you can pedal and get power assist. And he has a ZX1 unit with lithium power pack for 5 years without problem. Easy to self-dock and undock.
That ZX1, I think we're going to see that in the next few slides, Sal, so we'll talk about it. Then that's another great piece of equipment. No, it's not that one. Now this one, does anyone know exactly what these are?
That's a Jenny mode. It's a copy. It's based on the Segway.
It is.
Yeah. Look, they're fantastic. Yeah. Has anyone else got one? I know they're expensive.
Do they still make them?
That's a good question. Yeah, they stopped initially, but I think there was kits you could buy. A lot of potential because you've only got 2 wheels. It's actually really good traction because all your weight is just through those wheels. So for sand and stuff, they're fantastic. I think they are a bit spongy though, because you kind of you lean forward to go, then you lean back to stop. So it's a little bit spongy to start and stop, and you need to have a bit of confidence in your trunk, I guess. If you're just using your head or your shoulders, you've got less to really pivot on. But yeah, look, really great idea.
So they're self-leveling, but all of this equipment, you need some training behind it, and it's not appropriate for everyone or beneficial for everyone. This one is actually a copy that Jim got built himself, Campbell. The Segways were about $30,000 a set, and Jim was working with an engineer to have them, you know, to retail at about $15,000 or so. I'm not sure where he's at with that. But if anyone's interested to follow that up, let us know. We can look into it for you. So
a couple of other little.
No, I was just going to say, Colin made the comment before about the ZX1. So that's the one on the right. It's hard to see exactly how that works, but again, that attaches to a manual wheelchair. So you actually, the way it's sitting there, you back onto it, and with the button, you press a button and it locks itself to your wheelchair, and the armrests come down where you've got that joystick, and you can operate the thing with the joystick. So again, it's got some limitations, but it's a great piece of equipment where it converts your day chair into a full power chair. And if you need to put it into like a boot, you're able to do that too, because even though it's got some weight to it, it's not a lot where you can't lift it up into a boot. The one on the Sal, the left there, Sal, did you want to talk about that one?
The Freedom Tracks, you can wheel onto it, and then your manual chair locks into it, and then yeah, you can go along. The supplier for that is in Queensland, and I think there is one in Bendigo, perhaps, there as well. I think Josh Hose has maybe tried one, but yeah, I haven't actually seen one in use personally, but I've heard positive experiences from people.
There was one at the Royal Talbot a few years ago, and I'm not sure if everyone watching has been down the hill at the back of the Talbot, and it's a little bit steep. And these are fantastic, but because there's no change of leveling, when you go down, your whole seating position just changes with the angle. So it actually was quite a terrifying experience. Especially as a low para where you're normally used to monoing down a hill. This made it's worth being aware that it can really send you head first, which can be exciting as well.
Good point, Campbell.
So we've got a question about purchasing these vehicles through NDIS, and I think Ruth, you can help us with that.
Yeah, so certainly these pieces of equipment you can apply for funding through the NDIS, but as with all equipment applications through the NDIS, it just has to be deemed reasonable and necessary and relate to your goals. And as always, they want to see the piece of equipment be representative of good value for money. So as long as you've got, as long as you can sort of prove that it's good value money and it's deemed reasonable and necessary, yeah, definitely apply for these things. Some of the pieces of equipment, they actually we'll get to those later. That's more things like hand cycles, but certainly, yeah, go ahead and arrange for trials and things like that through your therapist, and then apply. We've had a few people get add-ons and things like that through NDIS. The other thing it's worth thinking about is if you use some of the equipment for work. We've had a few people who've used this smart drive for work, getting between offices and things like that, and they've had some success for funding through job access. But yeah, the NDIS should hopefully fund as well.
I think just to add to that, Ruth, that generally if a piece of equipment's over $1,500, you'll find that you'll need, or if it's considered above being a low risk item, then you'll require to have done trials and assessments with an OT or a physio, and they'll need to provide a report along with a quote in your application in the planning process.
Yeah, and trialling more than one piece of equipment where possible, just so that they can get that value for money component.
Okay, and we've got a hand up from Frank. So, Frank, I'm just going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. So if you can press the unmute button, you can ask your question live.
Not so much a question as that I own a ZX1 and it's quite a good machine. I can get out in the shed, I can go shopping, and it still gives me the ability to push the chair around at home.
That's terrific, Frank. Frank, while we've got you, then we've got a question. Somebody's asking who supplies the ZX1.
There was a company in Bendigo at the time, I think, that supplied it, but they didn't sell that many of them, and I don't know if they're still available here.
Right. Yeah.
But they were about $14,000. TAC was quite happy to pay for it, and I can get in and out of it myself, just pulling the chair back in. The clamp works quite well. The only thing, the battery is not that strong. It'll give you a good run for a couple of hours, but if you get a different type of battery, you probably get a bigger range. And with the battery changes, I've been going to Battery World, and they pull the thing apart and put batteries in. And
Terrific. Thanks, Frank. We'll move on there.
Just before that, there are a couple of suppliers in Australia, and I think Melrose and Push actually supply these as well.
We'll move on to hand bikes. We've got here a off-road hand bike called a GTrack. One of the patients from Talbot was trying one out here at the basketball court. Nicole or Ruth, if you have any comments.
There's a range of different off-road bikes that you can look at, and I think it's just looking at, again, your where you're going to ride, the type of riding you might do, your physical function, and then it's considering things like what setup is best for you in terms of seating position, what can you transfer in and out of, what's going to give you the most control, what's going to increase your range of function. So the GTrack is a bit higher off the ground and more upright than some of the other recumbent bikes. So just, yeah, it's looking at purpose, need, fit for your function. That would be a bit of a summary, as well as looking at all the other features of a bike that you might like in terms of gears, wheels, power, what sort of power assist. There's a whole range of things could go into.
Yeah, that's a good summary. Campbell, any comments on the Fat Explorer?
Yeah, well, that's my new toy. Yeah, look, I guess the main thing with the off-road hand cycles is they're not only bikes, and the big discovery has been these things they're everything between, you know, a walking device or a fast downhill device. And you know, for example, they open up things like hikes you can do with friends, or with your family. You can then take them to mountain bike parks. They're really versatile. And not just that, they kind of tend to change the way, and this might not be important for people, but they change the way you can be seen. You're not a disabled person when you're in one of these things. You're just in this cool machine, and you know, it's really empowering thing to be in a machine that's the same as everyone else if they're on bikes or hiking with everyone else. And it's a really nice way to think about your identity. You know, it's not just about getting out there with a disability. It's just about getting out there and having fun and challenging yourself. And some of the stuff you can do with these things are amazing. This trip I did with Ruth and Emma a few years ago now to Wilson's Prom. I mean, I'd never been out to these places before, and it was just awesome. It was such a great experience. And yeah, I think one of the things is these devices can help you get there, but they don't do everything. And then if you've got friends to help you, they can do the rest. And, you know, together, that's a really quality experience. And I'm sure, you know, other panel members can talk about this as well, but it's not just about doing things yourself, it's about doing things with people.
Thanks, Campbell. So there's a range of the off-road bikes.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. As just adding to what Campbell said, it's you know, I've got a Lasher all-terrain. I've got a 1,000-watt power assist on it, and for me, having, you know, been a fairly high quad, it enables, especially with the power assist, it enables me to do things that I'd never be able to do, like for example, just riding with other people and doing 100 Ks and still doing it at a good pace. You know, if you want a really good workout, you know, you lower the power setting down. If you want to go places, have a bit of fun, and open the world up to you, then you've got that ability too. And the good thing about it is these days they look really cool. So you always get the stares, especially little kids go, "Wow, what was that?" But there's a lot of different adaptations and stuff you can have on these. So depending on your level of ability, there is something that'll generally be able to, you know, get you into one of those things and get you out and about.
That's so true. Even on the back of Campbell's hand cycle there, he's got a trailer with his tent and overnight gear, and, you know, just adding and the wheelchair as well. Yeah.
So there's another shot of Campbell and his trailer later on in the slideshow. We've got a few questions I might put to the panel as well. So one of them is around, are we going to list suppliers? Yes, we will. There's quite a few photos, but we'll try and get out a list of suppliers and their equipment at the end of the session. So having registered for this session, we'll be able to send you an email with that. And do any of the bikes use hands and limited leg use? I don't think I've seen one that sort of does a combination. Is anyone familiar with that?
There are some crazy things out there with arm and leg cranking. There's a site called bikeon.com. So I'm probably a bit dark here, but that's worth having a look at, and there's all kinds of things on there.
Okay, Nicole.
I was just going to say, for someone who is also perhaps a very incomplete quad, an e-bike may even be a consideration if you're just needing a bit more power assist, if you're able to balance on a two-wheeler bike. Yeah, that's just another option.
Great, thank you.
Just to reinforce the power assist, I've got power assist on my new bike, and I'm a super low para who's been really active and independent, but the power assist just opens up worlds. So I think the old days of wanting to do things under your own steam, it's nice to be fit, but there's just so much more you can do if you just embrace a bit of assistance.
Go on, Ruth.
And it's I'm just talking about the Fat Explorer, Campbell. We recently did a little hike around Werribee Gorge, and it's heavy. Like, there was a couple of bits where it needed to be picked up, and it's okay. It's not that hard to sort of lift if you've got a couple of people who can help out in that situation as well. A bit of rope, yeah. So it's certainly heavier than your other one, but not prohibitively so.
That's good.
And for those that ride hand cycles, we've got a question about how do you deal with sharp turns on the hand bike? And has anyone ever run into a situation where they have to reverse on a hand bike?
Plenty of times. I think it depends on what sort of hand cycle you get. Like, some have a far better turning circle. I used to have a green speed, and that was a tadpole design with rear wheel drive, two wheels at the front, and that turned really well. But the lasher I've got turns like the Titanic. So if you're going out, you really got to judge the corner you're coming up to. Otherwise, I have got stuck a few times when I've gone out by myself. I've been able to back myself up, or I've had to get somebody else just to back me up and reverse up and back a few times, get around a corner. But I think it really comes down to, if you know the course where you're going to ride, and you've done it before, so you know the corners, and that makes it very easy. But if you're going to go out by yourself, it always, especially my situation, it pays to have somebody with you at times. But it's like anything. You just got to ride within the limits of the machine.
Dave, where did you ride within the limits of your machine again? Through half of Australia?
Melbourne to Broken Hill. Did that in 10 days, 10 days of riding, all throughout the outback on dirt roads, sand, and all that sort of stuff. So that was good fun. I ride it up around the Yuyangs, the mountain bike tracks around there, and that's great. If you go to Litchfield National Park, the mountain bike track there, those bends are a bit tight, so it makes it very hard to get the lasher around. But it's a fun machine, especially with the power assist. It can go places where I wouldn't be able to unmanned steam, so it's good fun.
Okay, we'll move on. These are just a few examples of road bikes if you prefer a fast ride over a lumpy ride. And we've also got an example here of an indoor trainer. So this is a regular indoor trainer that's been just put on back to front with a rope hand cycle. It's connected up to a computer and has a virtual screen on it, so you can ride a course. It'll change the resistance for you, etc. And if you've got the right virtual trainer, you can also ride with other people around the world. So
Yeah, I can't see it, Sal, but yeah, Zwift. There's a big community of paracyclists who set up their hand cycles on Zwift and ride around the world, and there's a bit of a push now to get the picture of a person on computer as an actual hand cyclist rather than an able-bodied cyclist, because, you know, either way, if you like riding, if you like being represented by an able-bodied cyclist, that's great. But if you want to be a hand cyclist, there's a real push for it, and it's a really nice community and a nice way to do it from home.
Campbell, could you just repeat the name of the site that has
bikes? Sorry. It's called Zwift. Bike riders know it, but I forget. Not everyone's a bike rider. So it's great and it's easy to get onto. It's just about connecting your hand cycle up to the machine, and it's not that hard to do. But on Facebook, there's a page which you'll be able to find, and someone's just posted a link. So thanks.
All right, great. And I was actually talking about the hand cycles you've seen that use legs and arms. Was there a site that you mentioned for that too?
Sorry, yes, someone else posted it, which was great. It's bike.on.com. Yeah, it's worth having a bit of a search around that site. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. All right, so these are some of the other bikes. These are, I guess, what I would describe as cruisers. They sit a little high off the ground, a little bit easier to transfer in and out of. Nice for a Sunday ride on a bike path. And then we have a recumbent bike. So some people who have incomplete injuries have found the recumbent bikes helpful or fun. And Nicole, you got a comment on that? Did you? No, your picture just popped up. No, okay. So this is an example of a recumbent bike. There's a number of different sort of styles. Again, we've only got the one photo.
Can I just something on those as well? You can actually get a coupling, so you can connect one up to another one. So if people have got vision impairments or a weaker rider, you could have two in a row, and people go on some great trips with these things. So really, lots of possibilities.
Right. So Naz, I've taken over a bit, but feel free to chop in at any time.
No, that's fine.
So we're into sports and fitness, and here we have an example of a what's called a para golfer, assisting people to get out onto the golf course. Yep, Nicole?
Yeah, I was just going to say with golf as well. So with the para golfer, you can either do a slide transfer in, or transfer yourself in, or you could use a hoist to get in there. Another consideration with golf is also the clubs as well. So there's a group called Empower Golf and Golf Australia as well, and they're both very helpful if someone's wanting to work towards returning to golf. And a few of the clubs, like around Melbourne, they'll do accessible golf days.
So these are similar to stand-up power wheelchairs, aren't they? But they're designed for off-road a little bit, and I guess they're balanced differently too, so you're able to lean out of it without the fear of tipping it over.
Yeah. So I've just had a message from Dale, who's got to go, and I'm going to somehow attempt to get to a few of the things that he was talking about.
Just quickly on golf there, Sal. That picture that you're showing there is at Sandhurst, and they have a para golfer chair that you can hire. So if people want to go down there and have a go, they can hire it there.
Thanks, yeah. And I think there's one at Albert Park as well, and 13th Beach. Great. Dale, is there any, given that you've got to go, is there any things that you want to talk about specifically? And I'll zip you through to them, and then we can come back.
Not anything specific, but just pick a couple of them.
The modified PlayStation, Dale, I think that'll be interesting to share with people before you go.
Sure.
Okay. Just bear with me, folks. We'll zip that through. We'll come back to these. You
can go to the treadmill too if you like. But
Okay, we'll double back to that. So this was one of the things you sent in, yeah?
Yeah, so the picture there on the left is I got a new car and then upgraded my hand controls and then decided that I wanted to use the old hand controls to play PlayStation and driver simulation type games on PlayStation and PC, and decided to fabricate a stand that would hold a Logitech G29, which is the steering wheel and pedal configuration, and then mounted the hand controls onto it. So that is it there in its prototype stage. I'm just working on the paddle shifter for where the actual hand control is now, so you can upshift and downshift, because the automatic cars are not that good in the games. You need to be able to shift up and down. So it's still prototyping, but we'll probably make a few of them.
It's good. Seems like it works well. You know, it gives people that option to join in with their friends, or, you know, go hard into those PlayStation games.
Definitely a lot of fun. What I would, I guess, caution you on is you fatigue pretty quickly with steering and braking in these games, because they're pretty fast. And so I find my tricep on my left as I'm steering can blow out pretty quickly.
Can I ask a question? Is that Logitech steering wheel, is that just for computer games? Is that just specifically for car simulated computer games and PlayStation and stuff?
Yeah, so it just connects via a USB. Logitech make a couple of different ones. The G29, I think, is a PlayStation version, but it'll connect to Xbox, PC, and the like. You've just got to configure them. Not all games are compatible, but you can, within PlayStation, I know for sure, within PlayStation, you can go into the accessibility options and you can map some of the controls. So Crash Bandicoot's kart racing, which is similar to Mario Kart, will work with it. You've just got to map the buttons correctly.
Right. And you said you were, there's a prototype, you're going to build some more. Are they going to be available for people to purchase?
That's the hope, yeah. I build a whole lot of different things, and you'll see the treadmill is one of those things. But yeah, we can make them. There's just a bit of work in it. So if I quickly talk on that, that's a fully accessible treadmill, which we are hoping to get put into gyms once they open up again. But gyms all over the place. Goes up to 25 kilometers per hour, multiple height variation, so you can change the incline. There's buttons on the side so you can change the speed. And there is Bluetooth connectivity, so you can do all of the Zwift type things that Campbell was talking about before, and race and train and a whole lot of stuff.
Cool.
Right. Thank you. We'll skip back to where we were, if I can remember. Oh, here we go, golf. So we've got the golf covered. There's another example. Is that you again, Dale?
Yeah, that's me playing in the Datto Golf Charity Day, which is down at Moona Links. That's a golf chair that I designed with Mobility Plus. So the other option to golf is doing it this way in a manual chair. I built a buggy to essentially tow me. And so I play out of a seated position. Currently hit a golf ball about 180 meters. So
all you've got modified is, other than the chair, you've got a glove, Dale, that you use to hold the...
Yeah, so you can see it. It's in the picture on the right. You can just see it on the end of the club there. It's a glove that is essentially attached to each club. I think if you speak to James Gribble at Empower Golf, we designed some 3D printed versions of these things. And I'm not sure whether he's making the file available or whether he can get them. but you can 3D print bracket that holds the club. And you probably, if you're going to play golf like this, you need to change the lie angles of clubs, which sort of pushes you into the realms of forged clubs, because you have to change the lie angles. But happy for people to contact me directly, and I can talk you through that.
How do you go with your knee? I noticed you got a knee cover, orange knee cover there. I've played a couple of times, so I keep smashing my knees.
Yeah, so depending on which club it is, there's a whole lot of angles in which you need to sit to miss your knee. But I put it on there just for a bit more of a surety that if I'm going to swing hard and accidentally hit my knee, there's a bit of protection there.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
All right, we'll move it on. I think there's a question, what's the best bike for a C45 complete quad? I think the answer to that would be, it depends.
It depends if you want to do road racing or off-road riding. It depends on, yeah, a lot of factors.
Okay, we'll keep going. Right, track racing. Naz, do you want to tell us about this?
Yes, a lot of people would have seen this track chair. The one on the left there, so that's when it's wet and miserable outside, you can jump to that and yeah, just get a workout while you're indoors.
That's actually, that's in my bedroom. That's the only place I'm allowed to keep it. But yeah, like it's great because it's just really small. And just to go back to the Zwift idea, you can get a little Bluetooth sensor and just stick it on your race chair, and then it's on rollers, so you roll, and then it plugs into Zwift, so you can pretend you're a bike riding around in summer warm places. It's really good.
Nice.
So that's where you jump on. Also, you don't have a lot of space, do you, to get on the rollers?
Not a lot at all. Okay, next one, Naz. What kind of chairs are these?
So these are rugby chairs. So it's just about different sports, you know. When if people want to trial different sports or activities, this is one of them. So this is wheelchair rugby chairs. So there's two main types there. There's like a defensive chair and an offensive chair. One on the left is a defensive chair, which is longer, and you can see there's like a bull bar on the front, which comes in really handy. And the other chair, which is shorter and it's got a more rounded front, and that's offensive. So you can sort of, you know, hit through some players or a try or a goal with it. Yeah. So that's pretty much what that is. These ones are basketball chairs, looks like, or tennis chairs.
And we've also got an ice hockey adaptation as well. So as we said earlier, if you've got a will, there's a way. Joy, tell us about this saddle.
So this is my adapted saddle that was made by a saddler down in Cranbourne. So it's got a handle, you can see sort of at the top of it, that I actually hook my thumbs through to hang on when I'm riding, because I don't, being T6, only working to my bra strap properly, I don't have the balance to be able to like stay on under movement. And that other picture is actually how I get on and off my horse. I'm actually stuck in that picture. We could get me up, but it wouldn't, bit of a malfunction, it wouldn't come down. So when I was in rehab, I spent a lot of time researching paraplegic getting on a horse, because I'd come off a horse to become a para. And my family were not for love nor money going to lift me back onto it for me to keep riding. So I had the side of my horse float, or a horse float, reinforced and imported that hoist from France. And it hooks on there. It's portable, so you can actually slide it off and put it on at other places with particular bolts. And that saddle on that horse is just a different type of a saddle. That's more of a barrel racing saddle. So it also has a bit of a handle where the you can see at the top of it there to hang on to.
Is this you too, Joy?
And that's me again there. So just some, you're allowed when you ride, so those straps are just Velcro. So it can, it comes away should you unfortunately fall. And then you can see, like, so that my toes don't fall out of the stirrups. Because I've been classified to compete, I'm allowed to have rubber bands around my heels to keep my feet in the stirrups, and then I have something called a toe cap there, so my foot can't actually go through the stirrup and get caught. But there's all sorts of different rein adaptations also that you can get. Like if you've got problems with finger dexterity, you can get loop reins or like a bar rein if one hand does work better than the other. There's all sorts of different adaptations that you can try what works for you. And that's my beautiful horse, Sandman.
Wonderful. So we're heading into extra time, folks. Just a reminder that we are recording, so we'll continue the recording, and if you need to leave, you can catch up once we release the video, but we'll push on. So a little bit about lawn bowls. Lawn bowls is here is a release for holding the bowl, and you obviously need some hand function. It's helpful for people who can't bend down low. It's nice a chair that's been adapted for bowls. It sits a bit lower. And also we have some archery options. There's an archery stand, so the stand will hold the bow for you. You can wheel the chair up onto the platform here, and then you only need the strength to pull the string back. You don't need to hold the bow as well. And what we found really handy with that, and this is standard equipment for archers, is this strap that has a little release. This bit clips around the string, and you've got like a trigger here. Now, if you've got hand function, you can pull the trigger and release the string. Otherwise, we've done a little a MacGyver, as one of my team likes to say, had this strap with the ball, and you can just pull on that. I've seen some people actually hold the strap in their teeth and pull to release the string, and they manage to hang on to all their teeth using this function. So that's archery if you're into that. Campbell, these rather luscious looking pants here.
These are for swimming. They're called lava pants, and you might be able to get other ones. They're just buoyant, and because they're 3/4 length, they're easier to get on and off. So they just make swimming a bit easier. Some people's legs float and other people's legs sink, so I find these really useful. And I also use a strap just around either under my knees or above my knees, or around my ankles even here, just to hold my legs together. And it just makes swimming a bit more streamlined, and yeah, minimises the break of your legs.
Yeah, I think Josh Hose was saying even if you use 3 or 4 mil wetsuit, you can get that buoyancy as well.
Yeah. It's just it's really good.
So,
just with the, can I just add to the swimming?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. Hand pedals might be something that are useful for people to use as well. If you're concerned about having bowel accidents as well, you could look at getting some washable bathers through with your continence supplies as a washable product.
Great, thanks, Nicole. That's handy.
Go downstream.
Table tennis, various adaptations. There is a chair version of table tennis, and we've got a few, I think, Paralympians or Commonwealth Games people in the community that have travelled with table tennis. Just realised that we don't have any photos of badminton, but and Duke, you'll be pretty mad at us. I know that you're listening in today. There is a wheelchair version of badminton, and they've got trips to the Commonwealth Games and possibly the probably the Commonwealth Games. Anyway, Duke Trench Erdem, if you want to put a little ad in the chat for everybody to get onto wheelchair badminton, go ahead. We're into hobbies now. Some gardening. A couple of adaptive gardening tools. You can see that they can, this is almost like forearm crutch that's been turned into a little rake. And there's different groups. Ruth, do you have any comments?
Yeah, not on these ones. I think they're the wolf garden tools, which are available. I think there's a lawnmower shop and queue that sells some of these products. I think there's also extendable handle tools, so that you either don't have to stand down or you can use it from the chair, from a seating position. And yeah, there's a whole range of tools available from Wolf Garden and other suppliers. And sometimes, like those ones there, it's just a matter of kind of, like your colleague says, MacGyvering a few things together to make it a little bit more user-friendly.
And of course, we've got raised beds. So this one obviously is designed so people can get right under the bed and get their hands into the dirt. This is another example of raised garden beds. Young Ock here had her front yard redesigned. Got all these lovely raised beds, a little workbench that you can work under as well. And a few other different types of ways that you can access plants and gardens. Back on the wall here, we can pop your plants in, attractive and accessible, and this contraption here, which is pretty cool. You can put your compost through the top. There's a tube down the middle. Put your compost in, and it feeds your plants all year round. And another example of some raised beds. This is a pretty cool. Have you seen this, Ruth?
I haven't seen that one.
All right. So this is another. This is sent in by one of the other OTs around Talbot. The push button spigot tap. So once the tap is turned on, you can push button to stop and start the water, which makes it a lot easier. And another version of the raised garden bed. Fishing. Rhys, tell us about your photo.
Yeah, it's me fishing in the high country up in Dargo, bit of trout fishing. I just made a ramp out of river rocks and yeah, controlled mono in and out, and it worked amazingly. Actually, I spent nearly a week in there, I reckon. That was good fun.
That's awesome. So, and then obviously somebody had off-road tyres and a freewheel, which we'll see photos of in a moment. They could get in and out that way as well without having to do the controlled mono.
Yeah, that's right. There's lots of different ways to do it, but I find it's just more the will of the person. If you got a bit of go about you, just have a go, see what happens.
Yeah.
Just with going in the water race, with the bearings rusting, do you do anything to prevent that, or you just change them every now and again?
Just went in, and then I tipped the wheelchair upside down when we come out. And when I got home, because the rims fill up with water, the actual handpiece as well as the rims, so you got to let your air out of your tyres, and then you blow out your rims with an air compressor, and then pump back up, and yeah, didn't do anything.
That's it.
So I've done a fair bit. When I do kayaking, I go into the brackish water. That's pretty hard going on the bearings. I usually replace them after a bit of kayaking. But as far as river water goes, it's the same as a shower, I suppose.
Has anyone used the strong arm before for fishing or for anything else? So it can be useful for people with limited hand function. So you can just essentially slide a fishing rod in, and it's quite strong. It's made out of some good quality leather, and people can use it for fishing, just to provide that extra support so that they can grip onto the rod.
A couple of other adaptations. So this is a fishing harness that fits around the torso. You can put the pole into the pipe there. Particularly helpful, again, if limited hand function, and particularly if you have limited use of one side as well. And we've also thrown into the photo a electric reel there. We haven't got it all hooked up, but that will hook up to a little battery, and you have a switch that you can press to run the line out or run the line in.
There's a whole range of electric fishing rods that are available now. I think, yeah, you can probably go to a local fishing store and have a bit of a look and see what's available. And I think Solve also have an electric fishing rod that they've designed.
And I think Colin Johansson's also shared some adaptive fishing kits by Handy Accessories from the US. He's shared us a site on the chat there. And Rhys, we've got a drone here. I think I saw you roll and help us get your drone.
3 called. And you can see it there. It has like a camera on it, and you can drive it while you're flying. You can look down at the water. Yep, there we go. So it's got, might need to come a bit closer. Yeah, falling off the little dance floor for the kids. So yeah, it sounds like a camera on the front there. Can you see? A bit hard. Yeah, so when you're flying it, you can actually angle it down on the water, and you can see fish flying around in the water, which is pretty cool. And it also has a bait release. Hang on, I'm trying to get closer. There's a bit of light on it at the moment. You know, there's a bait release on it. Can you see that there? I'll go into the shade. The sun's getting worse, so we go that way. Stupid sun. Hang on, let me change the angle of the dangle.
So pretty much, Rhys, you hook that up to your line, your fishing line, and
yeah. So here we've got that out. You can see I put my finger in there. Can you see that's where the line goes in? And then that pin goes across automatically on a servo, and you can flick on the remote, and that drops the line out of it. But these things are waterproof, and I fly it out there, and you can actually sit it in the water and move the camera around in the water and look at the fish. It's a bit of cheating. Wow. But yeah, I find it's really, really amazing for getting out into the ocean and doing it. And if they roll over in the water, you pull one control and it spins just one side and it flips them over, and then you can take off again. So yeah, pretty awesome. But I was extremely terrified of it, spending all that money and flying it out in the ocean. So the guy that sold me the drone said, buy one of these little tello drones. I've broken a wing on it, but yeah, you fly them around the house, and they use the exact same map as the big expensive drones do. So once you feel really confident with this $100 one, then you can feel comfortable with the $1,500 one. If that makes sense. Yeah, I was a bit nervous the first time I flew it 200 meters offshore.
And Rhys, we've got a question. Do you need a drone license for the fishing drone?
No, not at all. So you need a license if you're going to fly in built-up areas or in like flight paths and stuff like that. You do have licenses to do that. But yeah, extremely user-friendly. It flies itself, pretty much. It'll sit there. I've been out in 30-kilometre winds, and it'll just cock to one side and hover there by itself. You don't actually fly it. All you do is steer it, whether you want it to go out further, come back, and side to side.
And Dale had sent this photo in. This is some fishing pole extensions into.
Maybe to slot it into a PCB if it's attached to your chair or something.
Okay. Yeah. So
some people modify their technique as well and might tuck it under their arm a little bit more, or like there's just yeah, things like that to consider. How you hold the pole, how you can adapt the movement of your body to gain the function that you want.
Terrific. And I've just seen the hand up. Duke's got his hand up. So I'm going to allow you to talk, Duke.
Yeah, not a question. I was just going to mention with badminton, Badminton Australia and Badminton Victoria and Oceania Badminton, a major initiative in trying to get para-badminton more inclusive into the sport. And that means making it more fun, family inclusive for not just the person that may have a impairment, but the whole family may become involved with it. So it's an initiative that's going to be starting in the latter part of 2020, if anything is going to be raised in 2020 at this stage. But they're looking to make it more a issue. So unlike with a lot of competitive sports that tend to be one person within the family, they're going to make it more inclusive of the whole family.
Awesome, thanks, Duke. We'll move on back to video games. Ruth, you got a bit of form on these controls?
Yeah, I think sometimes with video game, it can be hard to get this kind of equipment here in Australia. This one in particular is from a company in the United States called Broadened Horizons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's just the brand name.
Okay.
It's sold by Broadened Horizons. And as you can see, it's a controller for PlayStation and Xbox. You can, like it was mentioned earlier by Dale, you can configure these things to have any kind of buttons you want. So you can also use it with switches and things like that. We've actually got one, we've got this one in the Talbot, but we've also got one that I can't seem to find anywhere. I was looking for it the other day. But it's essentially the thing you see on the left hand of the screen, but two of those. So it incorporates a whole Xbox or PlayStation controller within large screens there, and they can be quite useful for someone with limited hand function. But there are a bunch of other ones on the market that can be used completely hands-free, so through sit-pup switches, through eyebrow switches, head switch, that kind of stuff. And I know NDIS funding and other funding was raised earlier. With these, it can be hard to trial. So that's just one issue we've come up with in the past to get funding, I think, from TAC. I haven't yet tried to get NDIS funding, but it can be hard to trial some of this equipment because it's not readily available by suppliers here. But if anyone in the community has them or knows of anyone who has them, yeah, if anyone is wanting to trial that kind of stuff, it might be good to put it out to the community and see if anyone's willing to show how it works.
Great, thank you. So we move into art. Here's a few little adaptations for art. Specifically this device down here, which is for mouth painting. There's a little grip here for the mouth, a little extension. You put the paintbrush in there. Then there's some adaptations, so there's an arm splint or wrist splint that you can hold the brush with. Sometimes just even putting a foam ball or a foam tube around the brush makes it a bit easier to hold. And one example of card holders, if people are into playing cards, there's lots of different ways that card holders are produced, but this is a really simple way to create a card holder. I think Dale sent this one in. This is a remote control sailing.
Well, that's actually from Colin Johansson, Sal.
Oh, Colin.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's remote control yachts, I guess you call them. So he's got like a remote control panel that's easy to complete along with others as well. And there's another photo that we haven't used, I don't think, where he's must be a competition that he's taking part in on the tour there. But yeah, it's a great hobby or sport to be involved in.
Great. And then we've got the adaptive pool cue, and a couple of videos that will explain how that works, if I can get it to work. Hang on. Oops, no, wrong way.
This is presented by Jason Dean, who bought this online overseas. So it's something that I know Tadvik have a couple of versions of this that they build, but this one's pretty much off the shelf, I think, and it costs about just under 300 US. And what you do is pretty much push the end of the cue against the padding of the billiard table just to load the spring up. And at the end where he's holding the cue is actually like a quick release button. So he just pushes that to release that spring, and you can control how much power or energy you put into that spring as well. just the streaming is probably not the best here, so people can't see exactly how it works. But that was a light shot, so you know he didn't have to put a lot of power into it, and he was able to knock that ball in. And you can see on the back where his hand was, there's a black, like a switch, looks like a button. And you can release that by keeping that on top of the cue, or you can turn it the other way around. So as you, yeah, that's a good shot of it there. So you can have that on the bottom of the table itself. So when you put a bit of weight onto the cue against the table, it'll release that spring and hit the shot. So you can yeah, put as much power into it as you want. So it's a great piece of equipment, and yeah, I think Jason just says like he's got no issues playing against other people, you know, which is fantastic.
Another one from Dale, I think, was the remote control plane. Just another hobby that people might get into. Let's have a look at some outdoor and camping stuff. This little gadget here, the freewheel, I know a couple of you will be able to talk about that on the panel. We'll get you back online, stop me talking. Coupling this with some off-road tyres can give you a bit of freedom. Campbell, tell us how you pull this off.
Yeah, this is my daughter, and she was being really naughty. So no, I'm joking. This is. I think someone from Sydney came up with this idea of putting harnesses on people and letting them tow you up. So I've got a freewheel on the front of my chair to stop my front wheels digging in, but then also just having a bit of a rope attached to a strong human being is a really nice way, just so you can both push and get up some steeper bits and pieces. So yeah, so we just did a trek from the Otway Lighthouse to Air River Campground in the Otways, and it was just a nice little, I think, a 7 or 8K walk I did with Ruth. Is that about right, Ruth?
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's great. Yeah.
We've got a few other gadgets that can get you off-road as well. Trail Rider, which is available through Parks Vic. Campbell, you know a bit about that too.
Yeah. Parks Vic's got about 5 or 6 or 7 at different places, at different parks around Victoria. And they've also got a Sherpa program where you can hire the Sherpas for free, so borrow the Sherpas, and that's just some people to help take you around. So you just got to book it, obviously not right at the moment, but when things are going, and they can help you get around places like the Grampians or Wilson's Crom or the Dandenongs. And it's just a fantastic way to go out and about. Another great thing is that if you've got some family and friends, you can just do it with them, and you can get trained up. You can take the chair, it comes apart, and put it in the back of a big wagon, and you can just go off with it wherever you want with your friends. And yeah, really fantastic, no matter what your ability.
Thanks, Campbell. We have a question from Jen Lee. Naz, do you know where the Cool Q holder is supplied?
Yeah, I can tell you. I'll look it up. I'll get the details, and before we finish, I'll add them to the chat, and I'll also tell what they are, what the website is.
Okay. I might answer this question while we're having a pause and enjoying the scenery. So we've got a recently injured person who'd like to start playing sport. Are there any facilities that can cater to spinal cord injured patients? This person suffers from a quarter equina injury. I would like to start for overall well-being, but is clueless where to start, and they reside in Melbourne. I'll let you answer that, Nicole. You're the leisure specialist these days.
Thanks, Sal. I think not knowing who this person is at the moment, but if they're involved with the skis team, then we can do a one-on-one consult to kind of narrow down on interests, and also looking in. Sorry?
Injured in 2018, so not likely to be with skis right now.
Yeah, we could potentially touch base anyway to point you in the right direction. The associations for different sports are good places to touch contact with. AQA, Spire, to see if there's another peer or someone who might have similar interests. Then kind of narrowing down perhaps if there's particular things that the person has been involved with in the past, or if there's particular sport that might like to look further into.
DSR also, Disabled Sport and Rec.
Yeah, good one.
Disabled Winter Sports as well. They're back online now, I think, after the slow start to the season.
Just to add to that, I think it's really important to you know, on one side, look at what's out there, but on the other side, try and think about what your motivators are and, you know, what makes you excited about things. And, you know, no one's going to want to do something if they don't really enjoy it. But if you find something you really love, just follow that. And if something doesn't exist, well, you know, look, you just think about ways you can still do it. Like Rhys with his fishing with the drone. I'd never heard of that, but you know, there's so many ways of doing things that I think it's better to think about what motivates you first and then follow that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say too on that, yeah, if you want to pursue something that's more of an individual pursuit, or if you're wanting to do something as a group, or if you're wanting to join in with something that friends and family are involved in.
Yeah, when it comes to doing activities, or you know, as Campbell was saying, you know, find your passion, that sort of thing. If just because you might not be able to do it the same way as you did before, it doesn't mean it can't be done. It's really about thinking outside the square and just working out how to do it differently. Like, yeah, it's, you know, like many of us, we ride, you know, hand cycles, or Rhys with his fishing and that sort of thing. It's just really about finding other things that can assist you to get out and do the things that are real, that you enjoy doing, and yeah, get a bit of love out of it.
Duke was asking, can you attach a freewheel to a foot plate that lifts up on a fixed frame chair? I know the freewheel attaches to a foot plate, but if it lifts up on a fixed frame chair, I'm not sure it would work. Any clues there, team?
Yeah, there is an adaptation for the freewheel. Another option is a Lomo, which fixes to the frame. So there are a couple of different options depending on your chair type.
What would the off-road wheels be suitable to go to the beach even without a freewheel? So, Wifey, we've got some photos coming up that will address that for you shortly. So we'll move on. So we're going to the snow now. So it's a rather cute little contraption here. I just threw it in, but this is the more traditional sit ski. Sue, you mentioned Disabled Winter Sports. They run ski camps and so on.
Yeah, so the Disabled Winter Sports Association has a lot of programs and camps and things like that that you can attend, and there's a lot of different types of skis out there. So if you go back, so that's Campbell there on a mono sit ski. So that means one ski, and there's another person there on a dual ski, so two skis. But depending on your abilities and what you want to get out of the snow, is dependent on what kind of equipment that you might benefit from. Some of the suppliers sell the sit ski, so if you're interested in purchasing, I think Melrose Wheelchairs can hook you up there. But certainly the DWA, if you're just wanting to come and try it, if you're just wanting to hire equipment, things are slightly different this season, but certainly reach out to the DWA if you're interested in more snow sports. Or any other, I mean, if you don't have to restrict yourself to Australia, sit ski companies that can help you get back onto the snow all over the world.
Right.
I think Ruth, so I was just going to say, I think Disabled Winter Sports, and Ruth, you might know more about this, have a new kart ski as well, where it was like that first photo, and you just need really clear movement. Really simple movements or a joystick control. What's possible?
Yeah. So sort of more attendant propelled, is that what you're saying? Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen that one, but I've heard about it and I've heard that it's really great. Yeah. And also for people who don't necessarily need a sit ski, they've got a whole bunch of other equipment that they can loan out as well.
Yeah, hopefully people can see the video. We just threw in a bit of footage just to show you that you can ski individually, or you can start off with a ski guide that can get you going.
The Talbot normally runs a ski camp. We didn't last year, and we aren't going to this year. But if anyone's interested in skiing and wants to start the camp through the Talbot, just reach out to us and we can get you in touch with whoever's organising it.
So Rhys, this is a handy little contraption you got on the back of your ute.
Yeah, that's my ute. It's a BT50, and I've modified it so I can go out the bush. I do a lot of full driving, a lot of shooting, a lot of camping. Always set up ready to go with the kids at any time. The crane on the back there, it lifts 580 kilos, so it can lift power chairs, it can lift your everyday chair. It comes all the way around to the driver's door, so it's quite handy. You can bring your chair to the driver's door and hop in, and then you use remotes, and it's got cameras on the crane as well as in the tray, and you can see what you're doing. It's got lights on it as well, so at night time you can see what you're doing without crushing your chairs. But yeah, it's an amazing piece of equipment actually, so it's really, really adaptive.
Thank you. Here's a couple of shots of just getting out there. I think Ruth, you mentioned the trailer earlier in the program, and Campbell, that's your day chair and pack and tent on the trailer as well.
Yeah. So it's just, we just loaded everything up, and it was just a cheap trailer from eBay that, we just fitted on, and it was just simple. It was just a matter of putting a bit of thought into it, and then just giving it a go. And we weren't totally sure what was going to happen, but it worked really well. So definitely worth trying these things.
I see you use the ropes again.
Yeah, luckily Ruth was there to help pull me along quite a lot. So that sand was really soft, and that was before the days of power assist. So, fun.
And then when you get to your campsite, Dave, tell us about how you set up.
This is my messy campsite, and it's the photos I take from when I paddled the length of the Murray River in 2016. So basically, I've done a fair bit of camping. And what I have is a 4-man Black Wolf turbo tent, so very easy to put up. I went with this tent because it's got a lot of height, so if you've got carers, they can stand up fully in it to help you transfer and do whatever they need to assist you with. I also have a 1.2 metre wide cot with a mattress on, and that's at a similar height to my wheelchair, so it's fairly, so you can actually quite transfer it onto it. I need assistance, of course, and there's enough room in that 4-man tent to be able to get your wheelchair in, and like if you're out in the bush, I do my toileting in the tent. I've got a toilet set that goes onto my wheelchair, and that sort of thing. So. It took a little bit of playing around with it just to sort out what suits my needs, but it's like anything, you've got to start with an idea and give it a go, and just tweak it to get it so it works well for you. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different disabilities, and so just most important thing is get out there and try and see what works.
Yep, and speaking of everyone being a bit different, Joy, tell us about your campsite.
That is my wheelchair accessible motorhome. So it is set up with a toilet and shower at the rear of the vehicle with a double bed. You can't actually, I bought it already modified, and you can't actually get around the bed, but I just transfer on the bed, and then have my shower chair to the left of me in that sort of area and transfer into my shower chair, use the toilet and shower. It's got hand controls, so you know I can drive. I transfer into the driver's seat from my wheelchair. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun.
Naz, bit of paragliding.
Yeah, this was a few years ago. So in Herritville, there's an organisation over there that do paragliding for people with physical disabilities. So that chair is actually a wheelchair that they own. It's hard to see from that photo, but pretty much the larger push wheels are on the front and the small wheels are at the back, so you can roll over anything. And they can go tandem or you can go solo with that as well. So they're pretty up to it with people's needs, and yeah, they are very. They help you out. You know, if you've got any special needs, and they can sort something out for you. So that was a few years ago, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. You know, something that you wouldn't think you'd be able to do. And this was same in Herritville as well, but it's an ultralight. Again, this is tandem. I'm sitting behind the pilot, and believe it or not, this was scarier than going solo in the other one. This was, yeah, very difficult. Yeah, I wouldn't do this again. I'd do paragliding again, but I wouldn't do this one again. It was too scary for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get wet now. Beach chairs. I think so. Somebody was asking about beach chairs. Here's some examples of chairs that will get you right into the water, across the sand into the water. Various different types of beach chair, and these beach mats, which are starting to turn up a lot of the suburban beaches. This one's at St Kilda, and I know AQA do a day at Altona where they've got a beach mat as well. It can help you get right down to the water's edge. And the Wafi, I think you were asked about getting onto the sand. So these things are called Gecko tracks, I believe. So with the free wheel, you can add these Gecko tracks to your regular chair wheels and get along the sand that way. Feel free, anyone, to chip in if you've got anything to say, otherwise I'll just keep pushing on.
I might just say quickly with the beach matting, if you go to a beach somewhere, tell the council about it, because beach matting, it's not just for people with disabilities, it's actually the ultimate kind of thing for anyone, you know, pulling, you know, parents pulling kids with their boogie boards, and it's just amazing. So you've just got to let people know you want it, and then there's a lot of momentum to actually get it there. So the more beach matting around, the better for everyone. So sing out.
Accessible Beaches have a listing of where the beach matting is, and also beach chairs and facilities available at the different beaches. So that's a good website to have a look at. Some local councils also have beach chairs that you're able to borrow. Another consideration around the beach chairs is some of them are much better to self-propel than others. And even with a tyre that's got a greater surface area, you still may need some support, particularly if the sand is quite soft. So you'll find it easier if the tide is out and the sand is a lot firmer, if you're wanting to self-propel, than on the softer sand. And not all two beach chairs are alike. They're all quite different in terms of providing, some provide more support than others. Some of them, the arm, like the handles, can move out of the way, others are fixed. So it's good to kind of think about your needs and not just presume that whatever beach chair there is going to work.
And the buoyancy in the water as well, if you're using it to get in the water and having it swim, some kind of sort of float a little bit more than others, and arms can float up a little bit too.
Okay, so let's get into some boating. We've got a couple of examples here. mounted on the dock to help load you into the boat, and then we've got a floating dock which will obviously be at a consistent level for if your boat's been modified that way. And this is Colin, and I'm just going to see if Colin, you're still online. No, it looks, oh no, there he is. Colin, I'm just wondering whether we allow you to talk, whether you would like to say a little bit about your setup here.
Yeah, well, that's the pontoon boat that we bought a couple of years ago. I've since put a ramp onto the right-hand side door, whereas we boaties would say start. And that makes getting in and out onto the pontoon where we launch quite easy. I had hydraulic steering put in. It's not power system, it's just hydraulic. I'm a C56 quad complete, and I can drive that without any real major problems.
Colin, I'm sorry, we just had a little bit of interference. What modification have you made so you can wheel into the boat?
I made an aluminium ramp that swings down like a drawbridge on the gate that you can see on the side of the boat there. That swings over.
Right, yeah.
So instead of that, I've taken that door off, and the gate swings down the gap between a floating pontoon where I launched the boat and the pontoon itself.
Terrific.
I've put power steering, not power steering, but hydraulic steering on for the motor, because it's an 80 horsepower Yamaha, so it's a 1300cc motor, 4-cylinder, so it's a heavy beast of a motor, but I can turn that, and I'm a C56 quad.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Colin. We will move on to some kayaking now. Here's an example of a couple of adapted kayaks. You'll notice the outriggers, and I'll get Dave to talk about that because he's our resident kayaker, and I think, Rhys, you've done a bit of kayaking as well.
Yep.
Yeah,
Thanks, Sal. Yeah. So the kayak I bought was a Prion's, a 6 metre kayak, a sea kayak, and so I modified that. Took the seat out and put in I used a Roho on the seat with a backrest, and I got side supports attached to the backrest that gives me some good lateral balance. The outriggers on the back there, I just made those, and that gives me. They actually don't sit in the water. They just they sit about a centimetre above the water. So when you start propelling, it just stops you rolling up pretty much, and it offers enough support. You don't want to drag you in the water too much, otherwise there's too much resistance. And for me to hold the paddle, because I have no finger function, I tape the paddle to my hand. I've tried lots of different adaptations, where they're having gloves and wraparound Velcro mitts and so forth, and I found that type of duct tape that's a little bit stretchy works best, because it means you can wrap around your hand, gives you a good grip, but it's still a bit flexible, so it allows your hands and wrists to twist a bit. And that paddle there, most paddles are quite heavy. That's the lightest one I could find. It's carbon fibre. Probably worth about $900, but it enabled me to be able to paddle because holding it up all the time was really quite wore my muscles out. So that paddle is it's a real trick for me, and also to steer the kayak. These kayaks they turn like the Titanic if you try and use your paddle. So I've got a set puff system that operates a rudder. So if I sip on the tube, it'll turn the rudder one way, and blow on the tube turns the rudder the other way. So I just continually paddle and then steer the kayak by sipping and puffing on the tube. And there, just get in with a hoist, which I found was quite the easiest way. I've actually used a hoist even on sand and dirt and on riverbanks. And that trolley there is actually, the trolley is got a different modification. It's got some large wheels at the front instead of the casters. And so we could just move the trolley under the hoist, allow me into it, then, and that trolley just wheels like you're launching a boat into a river. And if you've got really steep banks, once I've got the kayak into the trolley, we fasten it down, tie down, and I've been winched up using four-wheel drive up 45-degree banks. So it's yeah, so I did the trick.
I'll just show this yellow one. I think this is commercially available. This this kayak, the yellow one, a little bit shorter, which would suggest it would be a bit easier to turn than your Titanic.
Probably a bit more unstable as well than yours.
Mine's quite a wide kayak. Looks narrow. It's probably about similar width to that one. But yeah, look, they are quite tippy. You know, if you're a low para, you can probably balance in them. But if you're, you know, quite like myself, then yeah, you certainly need the outriggers. But look, those outriggers on there, I've never once gone over, even with boat wakes and stuff there. So it just gives you the stability that you need, which yeah, enables you to get out in the water, which is good fun.
Rhys, have you got anything you'd add to the kayaking story?
Yeah, I just used a drag. I have pretty good trunk stability, I suppose. I used a normal dragon kayak to begin with, and I would wheel it down the boat ramp so that the kayak would be the same height as me, and then I'd have either my kids or my wife hold onto the kayak while I transfer in, because it's at literally the same height. And I find the same when you get out. As long as someone holds the kayak, it's quite easy to transfer out and then back in, and away you go. But I've recently got a Hobie one, and it's got like the paddles in it that you normally use with your feet, and I've got an adapter that I push with my hands, and it works quite well. And it has a rudder, like Dave was saying, sorry. The rudder is just a game changer. Makes life heaps easy.
All right. We'll kick on to sailing. So here's an example of an access dinghy. I think it's got a more technical name. This is our sailing simulator that we have available here at Talbot. Docklands Sailing Club also have a sailing simulator. And this is one of the exact same boats on the water. You can sail them solo, or you can sail with a friend. Some adaptive controls, little T-bar or a chin control, and these dinghies are quite easy to sail. You just left to right for the rudder and forward and back to move the sail in and out. And I think, this is an example of a guy called Brad Connolly who, having tried the access dinghy, went and bought himself a trimaran. Friend with electronics knowledge helped him modify it, so he's got a chin control. He sails that boat on the Barwon River. And I think these came from Colin as well. Some other sailing photos. Another type of control that you can fit, and again, that dinghy, they're a keel boat, so they're very difficult to fit. And obviously you can get a bit of speed up as you go. And then you can graduate something a bit bigger as well, and I think that's common as well.
Yeah.
I think I'll keep pushing on, Colin, because in the interest of time, we're way over time. Bit of water skiing action here. And Joy, tell us about water skiing.
Lots of fun. Something I have been wanting to try for a long time, and got the chance to with the Making Strides crew out of Queensland in December last year. So it was my first go getting, because my balance is pretty good from my horse riding, but the first go I sort of dived to the right, and I didn't get trapped in it or anything. I was very easy to get out and had the life jacket on, so I was very buoyant. But the second go I got up was really good. I didn't go across the wake because I was conscious of knowing that if I did that and came out, I was going to have to do a deep water start, and my shoulders and elbows were a bit sort of fatigued and sore at that particular time, so I didn't. But it was just lots and lots of fun. And I also, they do a whole ski day up there every year, and so we're on the biscuit and getting, you know, flipped around, and it was just lots and lots of fun.
Right, and that rope's quite high. Is that going to a boat or something else?
Yeah, no, into a boat. Yep.
There is a
Melbourne Cable Park.
Melbourne Cable Park. Yes.
Yeah, so they've got cables set up. Campbell, you've been there, haven't you? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Cable Park?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
They've got and they've even got maybe 3 or 4 or 5 wakeboards, seasonal wakeboards of different sizes that you can borrow. So yeah, once it gets warmer and we're allowed out, worth a go.
All right, we'll move on to scuba, and I suppose, Nicole, you mentioned the paddles or hand paddles, called paraffin sometimes. There's a couple of shots of them also useful for scuba diving. There's a couple of organisations, Disabled Divers Association, that run some programs, and I think there's a shop in Hawthorne whose name I forget, but there's a few options for people that want to get into scuba diving. Right through to, I don't think we can see it in this photo, but they have full face masks, so you don't have to hold the reg in your mouth. And you can also try snorkeling, and that's the crew from, I think, Disabled Divers, probably at Sandringham.
Yeah, I think it's out that way.
Ricketts
Ricketts Point. Thank you, Naz. All right.
Sorry, Sal, just on the scuba and dive, you can also get modified wetsuits too that make it easier to get in and out of your wetsuit.
We're into the home stretch, folks. Thanks for those that have stayed with us. There's still 15 of you hanging in there. Good work. So we're looking at daily living. Ruth, do you want to wing it?
Yeah, so I guess with voice control, things like Google Home and Amazon Alexa, environmental control is a lot easier. It's mainstream, so it's great that we're getting some of the sort of ECU, environmental control unit, through a mainstream technology, which means the price goes down. They're a lot user-friendly and intuitive, I guess, than previous environmental control units, and certainly a lot more people are having access to them as well, and just in a general way. So they're great. We have a lot of people who use Google Home for certain things, and Alexa as well. Lots of different expansion options, so it gets a little bit more expensive as you go along, but there's ways of controlling your lights, controlling your TVs, your air conditioner, controlling your front door, letting someone in and out through Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and connectivity.
And tell us about this high-tech piece of equipment, Naz.
This is my invention, Sal. This is actually pretty. Had to save up for weeks for this. When I was at the Royal Talbot, because I got no finger, what you get is like a script for the finger, so you can type on a computer, and that was annoying for me. I mean, this is just one of the things that you develop as an individual. So what works best for you? So all it is a like a band or elastic band that goes around my wrist there. So you can see what that's doing. It's holding my 3 fingers away from my pointer finger, so that just enables me to type without a split, I guess, on a keyboard, and you get pretty good at it as well. So yeah, simple solution for really important situation.
And Naz, I've also seen you using the rubber band to help you move papers on the desk and so on, just giving you a bit of extra grip.
Yeah. I mean, rubber is fantastic, and not just for this sort of stuff, but for lots of different reasons. But yeah, these are the things you sort of work out as you go. If it hasn't been invented, you invent it yourself, you know. And they don't have to be great engineering things. Could be something that exists already, but you repurpose it, just like that. So for people that haven't got finger movement, yeah, it's a great idea.
So we've got a few KitchenAids. So these are a couple of different knives that you may not have seen in rehab or in the community.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things out there. I don't know if it's still open anymore, but the Independent Living Centre, it used to be out at Brooklyn, and I think they moved, and I'm not sure whether they've now closed down. Does anyone know if they're still around? Anyway, they had they used to have like a did they close, Naz?
Yeah, they did. They're just running the database. I mean, they still exist online, but as a showroom, they're not there as a showroom no more.
That's a shame, because it was really great to be able to go out and have a look at things and sort of practice them, and then not purchase them there, but find out where you can buy them from. But they do have a really good online kind of catalogue for anything that you might find useful. So lots of KitchenAids. Like Naz said, anything that you can think of, it's probably there. And yeah.
All right, so pivot knife and cutting board.
Yeah, a lot of these things are available from Sol, or if you've got someone in your family, or if you're handy with a tool, just sort of whip it up yourself as well. Yeah, sometimes they tend to be overpriced a little bit if you have to buy it from companies, but things like these can be sometimes easily made. Otherwise, I don't know. What can help River Enterprise?
Yeah, I was just going to put in a plug for River Enterprises woodwork program. They do other things that are quite made of wood as well, like the knife and the cutting board. So yeah, Sol and River Enterprises are good low budget options. And we have this very fabulous jar opener that Julie Kent sent in. That's quite an impressive piece of equipment, I reckon. I think my mum with arthritis would probably benefit from that as well. And then there's a couple of implements that Dale sent in as well. Obviously a flipper that you can hold in a slightly different way, and a knife. I think we'll see that example that sort of has an arm brace to make it easy to use. Unfortunately, Dale's gone, but he does a bit of sourdough baking. It looks impressive, and somehow he uses this board to shape his dough. I'm not sure how.
No, what he does, Al, is he sits that round table on his, so it's small, so it sits on his lap, and it swivels as well, so he can shape the dough the way he wants. There's a video of that too, which we don't have, but it's pretty straightforward for him anyway. And as you can see, he makes some great bread.
Awesome. So that's a nice idea, sitting on the lap and having it a little pivot. Right, so here's a couple more tools for quads, a pickup stick and shears, and there's a knife in action. Put on your crocodile Dundee hat when you're using it. A couple of other things, scissors for limited hand function, and I don't know if Tanya's still with us. Yes, Tanya is there. She sent us in this this idea of the obviously commercially available, but the electric nail file, which makes keeping your nails buff and smooth. Just threw in the travel chair. This is an aisle chair for those of you when we're allowed to get back into travelling. It can help move you into the airplane and onto a seat. This fits between the aisles of the airplane. And some extra bits. One of Dale's workshops, so he's obviously made some modifications to make it easy for him to work. It's another example, if you've got the will, you can find a way. I think Colin, somebody mentioned earlier the quad grips. All this bit up top here, that's a pedal, but these grips here can be attached to a hand cycle, and you don't have the grip strength, you can still use these grips to help you pedal the cycle.
I use those, so I use those on my hand cycle, the quad grips, and
Great.
yeah, they're really awesome. They I used to tape my hands onto the cranks, but the quad grips are great. They lock your hands in there, so take them off.
And I sort of believe that the wrist fits between these two prongs, and the hand sort of slips around the tube here. We threw this thing in. This is just a G clamp and a microphone clip, repurposed to make it a handy little device for holding things. Mitts for grips. So there's various different mitts that you can use. This one here for helping push chairs. These ones for grip. Although Dave's also already mentioned that some flexible duct tape can be really handy as well. Another suggestion from Tanya, using the weightlifting wrist strap hooks on gym equipment in place of hand grip. I hope that was a good example of what you were suggesting, Tanya. And a couple of other tips, using resistance bands, adjustable wrist weights, the electric toothbrush and an assistance dog are all really helpful for people with limited hand function. And Joy, last slide. Tell us about the exoskeleton.
The rewalk. So it's good fun. And it works from a lateral shift to make it work. Yeah, no, it's nice. Like it's good for bone density. It's good for bladder and bowel health. It's good for your mental health to be up and standing. Yeah, they're good fun.
Suitable for everybody, or do you need a certain
level?
Yeah,
so certainly you need good hand function and a bit of upper body strength to be able to balance yourself on the crutches. And you need to be in a certain height range as to being able to have it adapted to fit you. But yeah, there's a couple in Queensland. I've got one here in Victoria as well. That's a rehab one. So it's not functional though. Like, so it's really only just for going for a walk, not necessarily something that you could ever get functional to, I feel like, stand up and as a replacement mobility aid. It's certainly not that.
Great, thank you. And I'm just catching up on a few of the chats. Tanya said Lynn's Rehab has a wide range of kitchen and dining equipment. And Josh is asking, can we explain the process of getting in and off a plane? And we've also got quadgrips.com for bike handles, so people are looking for that. Anybody want to talk about getting in and off a plane?
Yeah, maybe if we go to that old chair, so I can quickly try to explain it. So this is an old chair. The airlines have owned these things. So what you pretty much do is either in a power chair or manual chair, you go to the gate of the plane in your own chair, and you transfer onto this thing here. So as you can see, it's quite not very wide at all. So once you transfer onto that, the airlines have also got something called an Eagle lifter or Eagle hoist. They can hoist you onto that, and the airline staff push you through the aisle, which is on the plane, to your seat. And that seat could be anywhere on the plane. There's no disabled area on the plane, so you pretty much can sit anywhere. So they can hoist you onto your seat, or you can transfer across from this onto the seat in the airplane. So it's a simple process. Yeah, it's a lot of people want to know the answer to that question, but it's pretty simple process. All the airlines are experienced in this, and it's no issue. So you just got to transfer it onto this with the help of the airline staff. And that's it, in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you. And I think before the panellists outnumber the attendees, we might wrap it up there. Naz, do you want to do the traditional tip and trick round the grounds?
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I think we covered so much information. This has been our longest webinar ever, I think. But yeah, quickly, just a tip from everyone. I think a lot of what we've talked about have been tips, but just in a few words, we'll go around and just a bit of advice or a tip to other people wanting to get into whatever they've got interest in. So we'll start with Dave. I can see, Dave, your mic's on, so maybe just a quick tip or a trick from you.
Well, a tip I think is there's a lot of equipment around, which is great, but if you've got something you've done previously or you want to try something else and no one has done it before, doesn't mean it can't be done. Give it a go. I think one of the most important things that I've found through my experience is talk to people who've got lived experience, other people in doing other things, in engineering, that sort of stuff, get ideas and talk about it to other people, find other people who can maybe give you some assistance in developing some stuff, or even, you know, helping you, enable you to do the thing that you want to do. So, yeah, just make sure you just get out and give it a go.
Thanks, Dave. Rhys, do you want to go next? A bit of advice or a tip or trick?
I'm just sort of in line with what Dave was just saying there. You've got to give it a go. I think the real world isn't made for us. And if you don't want to have a crack, you're going to fall behind, which is a bit sad. But at the same time, once you start doing it, you'll fall in love and you'll want to become stop. Just got to find the way to start, if that makes sense.
No, exactly. No. Thanks, Rhys. What about Joy? Bit of advice from you, Joy?
A very important piece of equipment, and the most basic piece of equipment, is a chopping board. So I always live, like, that's how I carry stuff around. You can put sort of, you know, like the rubber gripping stuff on it so that cups don't spill or anything. I cut up all my veggies. I'm in a house where my kitchen's not modified. So that would be my tip. But also surround yourself with positive people. Like that, I think, is a really important thing. It's tough enough, this life as it is, but it's not, but it's very important to be surrounded by positive people who are willing to give things a go and not go, oh no, that's too hard. So, and like the other guys have said, reach out. Like, we're all happy to bounce ideas off, or go, oh, I tried this and it worked, or it didn't work, or we're always only ever, you know, an email, a phone call, whatever away.
Great, very true. Thanks, Joy. Campbell?
Yeah, look, I guess one thing I think is people without disabilities have tons of role models that they just take for granted. There's a lot of people out there in the world doing different things, and if you have a bit of a kernel of an idea that you want to do, you just look to those people. A lot of the representation of disability is always, you know, hospital or inability, but when you're going through rehab, perhaps your expectation is that's the truth, but the truth is you can do whatever you want. It might mean you've got to look a bit harder to find a Dave Jacka or a Rhys or a Joy or whoever it is, but those people are out there and those things to do are out there. So just keep building on every step, and there's a lot more to it than you think.
Right, thanks, Campbell. Nicole, how about for you?
I think, well, so much. Keep it fun and enjoy yourself. I think sometimes starting something new can seem a bit overwhelming and a bit scary, particularly if you don't know other people who are doing that particular thing. If you can, like, break it down a bit and try and just work out steps of what it is that you can do to make your way towards that, or to put your foot in the water and try it out a little bit. Sometimes change can just take time and can take a few goes. You might not always get it right the first time, so it can take a bit of problem solving. But there's, as Campbell was saying, there's lots of resources and people out there. It's just search them out, and AQA, Spire, great resources of peers who are out doing stuff.
Thanks, Nicole. And Ruth?
Yeah, I think just building on what everyone was talking about, there's a great bunch of people in the spinal cord injury community, and I think don't let a lack of access to equipment or resources get in the way of having a good time. It can be hard to